What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of the GZ Chop Shop podcast. I'm your host, Projektitachi, joined by my good friend and co-host, Warnurse. And before we dive into the breaking news of this week, I just want to say, depending on when you guys are listening, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had an amazing holiday, or you're about to go into your amazing holiday and have a wonderful meal. And I want to say that we're thankful to all of you who tune in to all of our episodes. Currently, past, present, if you've been with us over the years, we want to say thank you very much and wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
I'm so glad that you're the one that speaks, because I would ruin all of that. Like, you're so fluent with your words, and I would just be somehow in there, my good intentions, I would say something like upsetting or like fumble my words.
It took a lot of practice, trust me, it took a lot of practice. But this week, man, we gotta talk about Sony. Because they've been making a power play. They're making a power play.
The power play.
Yeah. So for you guys that are probably unaware, Sony is currently in talks to acquire media juggernaut Kadokawa Productions. And if you do not know, if you're watched anime, play any FromSoftware video game, pretty much if you're just in nerd culture, you've come across something that Katakawa has put out. And they've been around since what, 1945?
Yeah, 1940s.
Like 1945, Katakawa came into the picture. And so
I think
you've seen or played a game produced by them, and they don't do just anime. They put out like movies
movies
too.
And stuff. Well, that's what I was gonna say. They're, I think, one of the big four entertainment media distribution companies in Japan.
Yeah. So they are in talks of being acquired by Sony, and I know you and I are pretty much in the same thought process, like, oh my goodness, here we go again, another consolidation, another acquisition. And
I have two sides. I have two thoughts to this.
And I actually do too. There's some information I think some people do not know, which may have led to this acquisition. My initial thought was Microsoft definitely kicked things off when they back with Bethesda. They kicked things off.
Was Bethesda? Yeah, Bethesda was before Activision Blizzard buyout, and then Activision Blizzard was a couple 2-3 years ago.
Yeah,
Activision Blizzard was going through a lot of turmoil, a lot of layoffs, a lot of lawsuits, particularly discrimination lawsuits. A lot of stuff came out, and it just the company as a whole was they were on the struggle bus. And you remember when I said, I quote this because I remember saying it. I said Activision Blizzard needed a character development arc, and I said this isn't quite what I meant, but I know you remember me saying this, and I stand by those words because, you know, we come at Microsoft when they're doing things, we come at Sony when they're doing things, especially Nintendo. So we're not biased here. We just call out what we see and then our thoughts. But Activision Blizzard has gone to shit since then. I'm going to say it. Okay. The company was already doing poorly. Their games at least were still fun, but there was way less microtransactions, way less changes to the games at the time. And at least at the time, Call of Duty wasn't putting out like $50 skins and game pass, season pass stuff. Like, it was just a little bit more, it felt more authentic and fluent. And every time Microsoft buys out another company, something happens. And I just feel like they take over, and then changes are made, and it just doesn't feel like the changes are always for the best when a company does this. And I think in this case, with Sony trying to buy out Katakawa and take FromSoftware, we're looking at similar fears that are very natural. I'm worried, and a lot of people that are FromSoft fans, they're worried for good reason. Because, again, what happens every single time a company comes in and buys out another huge company, completely acquires it, and then gets all the titles and IPs, it's not always for the best. So fingers crossed. But to me, there's a silver lining here, or maybe a saving grace, so to speak. FromSoft has a long history with Sony PlayStation. Decades of being a third-party contributor and working together as a third party, seemingly without any problems. So I want to hope that Sony is going to look at the people and their worries, and look at how games have changed in other companies once acquired, and maybe not make the same mistakes and continue to be hands off.
That's what I think is the hope for a lot of us. It's like Sony knowing that, hey, we've had a good relationship with them. We just keep letting them do what they do. They just now directly work for us, but we don't change anything.
Yeah.
Is the ideal outcome. But if we're being realistic, we know it might not work that way. However, it could, because Sony did leave Bungie to their own devices and only stepped in when Bungie started screwing things up.
And people can argue either way. And this is where I try not to pick sides. I try not to go, oh, well, Sony, Microsoft, or well, Bungie, Destiny, PlayStation, whatever. Is in that case, Bungie was already making mistakes with Destiny. They were already doing stupid crap. The game was already going in a direction. The whole team was mostly not the same team as when the game first started, similar to Halo. So, and it's a good point you brought up, is when they acquired Bungie, you haven't really heard much news about Bungie. But also, some of that could be because the game's it's over. Like, they only had a couple DLCs left to put out. The game was kind of coming to an end. So it's kind of like you could kind of argue both sides a little bit, but ultimately it does look like they just kind of left it alone.
Yeah. So, and FromSoft is already working on several new projects that have yet to be announced, but they've confirmed, hey, we're working on some new things. So maybe Sony will just leave it alone. I know people on the Xbox front are like, that are FromSoft fans. They're like, please don't make these games exclusive, which was the same,
I mean, I get that. I 100% get that. We're in a day and age now where making exclusive games kind of feels extra greedy. However, these companies are your competition. These companies are not buddies, nor should they be, because good, healthy, strong competition puts out good, healthy, strong products. And we want to hope here, that a lot of hope with this acquisition, that Sony sees what Microsoft has kind of done with like Activision Blizzard, mainly Call of Duty, because I have a love-hate relationship with Call of Duty, especially the changes made over the past few years to it. And they don't take FromSoft and FromSoft games and start putting in season passes or buyable skins or any sort of pay-to-play situation. They keep it nice and authentic FromSoft like it has been.
So,
and I think they will.
When you mentioned healthy competition, is it really healthy competition when now there's only like 3 juggernauts remaining and they're scooping up all the potential competition?
Well, it's more of a play on words, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Sega's been out of the game for a while. So really there's just Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo.
And I mean, think back like what and earlier back in the day, you had Sega, Nintendo, Atari, Commodore, PlayStation, and Xbox was the last kid on the block. Yeah, what was it? Jaguar. You had all of these different brands. I remember VTech.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about VTech.
Yeah, you had all of these different competitors.
You make a good point. Is like it's kind of like the finals, last man standing, and we're entering monopolies now more than ever. And Sony,
and then you got Microsoft and Sony scooping up anyone who could potentially become a competitor down the road by saying, "Hey, just work under our umbrella instead." And it's like, to the consumer, and this is a mindset that kind of ticks me off, is a lot of people go, well, that's business. And I'm like, that's just a way to glaze over with blinders to what it really means. Either you just don't understand and you just don't want to admit you don't understand, or you just simply don't care because you think it won't affect you. But consolidation is bad for everyone in the long run.
Well, in my mind, there is no way that those running Sony PlayStation have seen or are aware of the complaints and the downsides to some of the decisions that Microsoft has made acquiring Activision, Blizzard, and Bethesda, right? So when I say healthy competition, when I say that it's good for both sides to be competing on a strong level, where I'm coming from is looking at the mistakes or decisions of another company or things that didn't look like maybe got received negatively and going, okay, we won't do this or we'll do this differently, even if it's in a greedy way, to see if it can work in a more of a favor, positive perspective from the consumer, if that makes sense, even if it's a greedy move, as
now,
to
do
not
you
make the
think
same
Microsoft's
mistake.
going to try to block? Yeah. Then do you think
I mean,
Microsoft's going to try to block them the way
No.
Sony tried to block them from getting Activision Blizzard?
I don't think so, because the thing is, these are Japanese companies that have been working with Japanese companies, even if they do have offices and, branches overseas. And it didn't work out for Sony. And I'm sure Microsoft's aware that it won't. If they do, it's not because they think that they'll win or that it'll pass. It's because they're just trying to delay it.
And a delay could cause a huge issue, because don't forget the whole Starfield thing. Starfield was going to be a PlayStation exclusive, and Bethesda got scooped up by Microsoft mid-production of what was supposed to be a Sony exclusive game.
And yeah,
so,
and
Sega was on their list of acquisition potentials. That's a Japanese company.
I don't think, and Sega was I don't think Sega has a very good thing going right now.
Making everyone happy.
They don't have a console. They unfortunately have Sonic fans, but that can't be helped. And they're in their own corner, making movies, making cartoon shows, just making media, forms of media that people are enjoying, even if it hurts my eyes, Sonic fans. And there's no reason for them to sell out. Or I don't want to say sell out, but allow someone to buy them out.
To acquire them. They've made a huge comeback over the years, from the brink of ceasing to exist to becoming a force to be reckoned with once more.
And I will say this. What we're seeing in the industry, this isn't Microsoft's fault or Sony's fault or Nintendo's fault. No, this is all the outcome of you, the consumer. The consumer, because you did that to Sega when the Dreamcast dropped, and you didn't appreciate it for what it was at the time, and it didn't get the numbers it needed. That's what happened. That's what started all this. This is your fault. All of you made this happen. And had you just accepted the Dreamcast for what it was, maybe we wouldn't be in this position right now with just we'd have Sega out there too, pumping out numbers, putting consoles out. No, this is y'all's fault. Didn't appreciate
it. Would also have kept the market. It would have kept the market balanced too, because then these three companies wouldn't be able to charge whatever they wanted for their hardware, because they would have to remain competitive.
Yes.
So the consoles would be a little bit more affordable. And I get it. And here's the other thing. I know people that will, inflation. Can we just stop being an echo chamber? Let's be honest. Half the people that yell inflation don't actually understand what inflation is. They just yell it because it's simple, it sounds good, and most people don't understand it. So they're just like, okay, yeah, cool, that makes sense. But yeah, we kind of also have done this to ourselves, leading to only 3 remaining and them pretty much being able to do whatever the heck they want. Now, here's something I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't know. And I know we kicked it off. We were like, Xbox kicked off the acquisition war. They started it, no doubt about it. But Sony, they kind of pulled a Microsoft with this one. So if everybody remembers, like you were talking about, Activision Blizzard was in hot water.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft came along and said, we will shield you if you let us buy you. Activision Blizzard pretty much was like, please
help us, because everyone is suing us right now and people are quitting. So what a lot of people probably don't know is Katakawa was in a similar situation. They actually were in hot water because of their chairman. So 2 years ago, Sugihiko Katakawa, the son of the founder,
resigned as chairman after he was indicted on bribery charges related to the Tokyo Olympics.
Oh, shit. I didn't even know that. Man.
So imagine what that did for shares.
You have brought dishonor to the family.
And even worse, the son of the founder. That hurts. That carries weight.
Yeah.
When you see it like animes and movies, the son of a company founder acting a fool, now you understand that they're bringing real life into it. I'm like, hold on. Your parent, your father created this juggernaut company, and you, by default of birth, were handed this legacy, and all you had to do was keep it going. But you wanted more money, so you took briberies. Now, not only have you had to step down as a chairman, yes, it carries your family's name, but now your family is separated from it. It's run by board. Congratulations, you just gave corporate what they always want. Corporates love to do that. That's why boards exist, so they can take the company from you. And you just did that. You just ruined your father's legacy.
So,
because you wanted to be greedy.
What we were talking about, hoping that Sony would kind of stay in their lane and let FromSoft continue doing what they're doing, that right there that's been like almost a race. Like, that makes it worse because, like you said, the board's in charge now.
Sony already had a 2% stake.
I didn't know this.
Kadokawa. They already had their toe in there, and they have a stake in FromSoft itself. So you can bet everyone was just waiting and watching for an opportunity, and the former chairman gave Sony that
Damn it, Japan!
opening.
You son of a bitch!
They gave Sony the opening. Because something like that, like I said, that tanks shares, that hurts the people's faith. Also, Katakawa owns I can't pronounce this, I'm not going to try to butcher it, but everyone who knows the YouTube equivalent for Japan, it's like Nico Kino or something like that. I'm sorry if I butchered the name. It's their YouTube equivalent. Katakawa owns that. So that's a ton of money. And you're saying your chairman was corrupt. Katakawa took a hit. Like,
man, everybody's about to get hit with microtransactions.
Yep. So Sony came in and basically said what Microsoft said to Activision. We'll take the heat and we'll save you. Let's sit down and talk. And the fact that they're saying that the deal could close within weeks, it took years for Activision Blizzard to go through, even with all their legal trouble.
So it must have been in talks already to begin with. Like you said, this happened a couple years ago. Seeing that it's not an American company, we're not hearing the news immediately, and we're certainly not hearing all of it like we would if it was like with Microsoft and Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, I had to do some deep digging. I had to go like where the news first broke to find that out.
Man.
So it's not just that they were, I'm sure that they wanted, because Sony, they're a media company as well. They've got a hand in everything. Technology, movies, music, anime, manga, to which they've been trying to consolidate, which Sony is to blame for the anime, I want to say, anime war that's been going on. Because if you notice, after they bought Funimation in 2017, and then they got Crunchyroll, and then they consolidated too, which is why people are afraid of the consolidation, because look what happened with the Funimation transfer to Crunchyroll, and a lot of anime got lost, and the licenses is just obliterated, and nothing getting renewed, and it just caused mayhem, that they pretty much have just been like, it'll sort itself out. Now you have all of the other streaming services scrambling to get manga licenses to make their own anime to keep their subscribers. Netflix is doing their originals. Hulu is getting aka Disney. They're trying to scoop up licenses. But here's the catch. They're getting the licenses via the manga. But who owns most of those manga? Kadokawa. Sony goes and grabs up Katakawa. That changes everything. Now Disney's going to have to go to Sony. Netflix is going to either have to go to Sony.
I do like that. I do like, because we've been talking about anime and for a while now, like the last few years, there's been a lot of new consumers, a lot of new fans, which is great. But some of y'all suck. Some of y'all are not fun to know or to be in the fan club because you just complain about everything because you started watching it last week and you saw something that you didn't like. Whatever. That's a whole other conversation. Americans need to stay out of anime. We need to stay away from it. And all that other stuff can be unfortunate or not unfortunate. Everything going on with Katakawa, all the legal stuff. We could talk about that all day. But anime and the mangas, they need to stay licensed directly in Japan, and we need to leave them alone. We don't need American companies getting licenses for these things.
Now, I will say, I do like some of the stuff Netflix puts out. I don't know. Some things I think are completely original, and they just get a good team together and they do it. But I also know that they have to go and they get the license right from the mangas. And as much as I don't like consolidation, I do agree on that front. We don't need 30 different platforms hosting anime. I think we should just leave it to the Japanese platforms and let them license it out to us like they do with Crunchyroll.
Because look what happens to American franchises when Americans are messing with them. We ruin them. We put political views in it. We put our own personal crap in it, and we run it into the ground until it's not even fun to read the comics anymore because the comics start getting changed. The comics start getting like, I don't want to read stuff that's influenced by our reality. I want to read stuff that's untouched from reality and it's its own thing so I can escape and enjoy something, a new world with new characters or characters I'm familiar with that are fun. I want to go somewhere else and not be here. I don't want that to happen to anime and manga.
Yeah, no, I entirely agree. Yeah, I entirely agree. And maybe this will be a wake up call for people and just how much these deals actually affect and influence you. Even in your entertainment. Something like this going through, Sony having full control. Subscription price changes, tiers, all that stuff. They're going to be able to do whatever the heck they want. And because a lot of people are just like, oh, it doesn't affect me. But it really does, and we should be outspoken on it. Does
Katakawa own Shonen Jump too, or is that a separate?
I think Shonen Jump is a separate thing. Katakawa
I thought it was a separate
publisher.
thing, but I don't remember reading about it directly. So
I know that they have a ton of properties, and a lot of them are major, like Shield Hero, ReZero, Eminence of Shadow,
Overlord,
Oshinokoi. That's just off the top. Yeah. They have a lot. I think I could be wrong. I think they absorbed Manga Entertainment because if you remember, Manga Entertainment was a thing back in the day.
Yeah.
A lot of mainstream anime, Katakawa's got a hand in.
Which, this is like a side note. It's something that I've thought about for a while. I'm very surprised that the Shonen Jump app is only like $3. That is very surprising to me. Because
I will never complain about that.
I know. I probably shouldn't be jinxing it. It's just that the fact that they could charge like $10, $15 a month. And honestly, the amount of manga you get, you get
for $3. Yeah.
You can literally read all of One Piece on there. That's over 1,000 chapters alone for one. Like there's so much manga on there. The fact that it's just $3, $10 or $15 would actually be fair. Like I would be like, that's fair.
I just want to say, whatever company hears this in the future, I do not condone his view.
Can we just all agree that that's? I'm just saying, I'm a little suspicious. Like what?
I am not. I will
why
say
is it $3?
It's $3. I will tell you why. It's $3 because just look. I'm sorry to rat you guys out, but you guys are the prime example that come to my mind. Dragon Ball fans, Dragon Ball Z fans. Every conversation they take part in is only stuff based off the anime. Half of them, maybe more than half, have never read the manga.
Man, I got into the manga because of Tai. Dude, yeah, I know this we're off subject, but I just want to say it. Especially now that I'm in the Dragon Ball Super, I've left Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, even though it's all Dragon Ball. on the manga, the Dragon Ball Super. Nothing. Like, everyone gets upset when an anime is not, like, it doesn't follow the manga and liberties are taken. People are like, what the hell? Like, people get upset, dude, on any anime. Dragon Ball is the only anime that people do not get upset about that just does not follow the manga whatsoever.
2 reasons. I'll give you the 2 reasons for that.
Especially when it comes to Goku. Because he is him.
Yeah.
In the manga, he fucks.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
But there's 2 reasons for that. One, people's attention span.
He's gangster.
Most people who are diehard Dragon Ball Z fans don't read it. They watch it. That's like 80%. That's like 80% right there. They're not gonna read it. They're gonna watch it. Number 2, the manga, unfortunately, I think for Super, was put out after the anime was already underway. So the actual story of how it was supposed to go is in the manga, but I guess due to the high demand for the anime, proving more people watched it than read it, the anime got a whole different storyline.
You know, I'm guessing another factor of that too is probably the fact that anime that we got in the 90s and the early 2000s, unless you on some rare off chance, reason knew somebody or understood how to like get a hold of mangas and that animes were based off mangas, then all you knew was that animes came on Toonami or a couple other channels, usually late at night, and they were all English dub. There was no such thing as sub.
Yeah, I remember.
Which makes the whole dub sub arguments now lame. But anyways, I don't want to get us off track. That was a thought I had.
So, yeah, but if Sony grabs up Katakawa, they'll have Sony will be a juggernaut in the manga anime distribution. They could leave it alone, not touch anything. I just think it's just so messed up to see literally what was a family business now just go straight to corporate, because there's no recovery from that. Like, it's not like Kadokawa Jr. can come in and be like, I want to take back my father's company.
I'm assuming there's not like other sons or daughters or anyone that could step up. It's just like one child, you had one job, and that's crazy.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we could talk about this all day, but that's really big news. We just had to cover it. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you think that this deal could be a good thing? Do you think it could be a bad thing? Do you wish that these juggernauts would just leave all these other companies alone? I know on your TikTok, you were getting a lot of people that were like, please leave it alone. So let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on social media. Visit our website, jeezychopchoppodcast.com, for all the latest episodes, blogs, posts. Follow us on our social media from there. Everything all in one place. And if you want to support us, visit our Patreon. Check us out on Patreon and get some exclusive content and perks, all just for $5. Anyway, that's all the time we've got. Take care of yourself and each other. Have a wonderful holiday, and we'll catch all of you people on the next podcast. Later.